Welcome back to another Wednesday on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your Wednesday host, Yeka, and this week we have a question from Rebekah who asks about doubts. So there's two parts to this. The first is, how do you deal with your own self-doubt about the magical things you have accomplished/experienced? And secondly, do you have any tips or tricks for silencing the voices of anxiety, doubt, the voices of those who have worked to condition you to doubt yourself in every way? And then they give a little bit more explanation, which will go ahead and be in the description below if you're interested in the full details about that. But I wanted to talk about doubt. Start by saying that I think doubt by itself is not necessarily a bad thing. I think that doubt can be a very useful tool to an extent. So, for instance, let's say one has a fight with their spouse and afterwards are going, was I really in the right? So it can be a tool to help us know that we need to look deeper at ourselves and do some self-reflection. So it can be that invitation to do the self-reflection and to maybe think about it once you're not part of the situation anymore, to examine it from trying to put oneself into the other person's shoes, and not just in the situation of an argument that you might have had, but also, say, just thinking about, do I really believe whatever these particular values or ideas are? Do they really work for me? So doubt can be an opportunity for self-exploration and growth. But there comes a point at which the doubt passes from being a useful tool to being anxiety. And when it passes that point, it can become destructive and harmful for us. So, in terms of ideas for how to deal with that, because that's something that certainly, of course, I have definitely felt, and I suspect that that's something that a lot of folks have dealt with. For me, anxiety was a big challenge for me. It was a pretty big bane for a long time, and it's something that I have very much addressed. It's not gone altogether, but there were some things that I did that have really helped me to alleviate that. So I wanted to share what those were with you. And there's two different places and kind of approaches to come at it from. And one is there's some techniques and practices to do, some magical practices, if you will. And the other's a little bit more mundane, but just as powerful, if not more powerful. And that is the physical side of it. Because it is very hard to feel good, to feel at peace, to feel confident emotionally, and from an emotional and mental place when you are physically unwell. Okay, I put the little fuzzies on the mic, so hopefully that'll cut down on the wind. Sorry, there wasn't any when I came out, and of course now there is. Anyways, so from a physical place, when we are unwell or out of balance, that has tremendous impact on how we feel. So there are some places to start with that, and I'll share what it was for me that made the biggest difference was really getting my sleep in a better, healthier place, and also my diet and making sure that I was getting the nutrients that I needed, particularly when it comes to anxiety and depression, things like that, making sure to get enough of the B vitamins, specifically B12 and also B6, but really B12, as well as vitamin D and iron. Those were the ones for me that once I got enough of those in my diet, and I took out some things that actually weren't working for me, that didn't make me feel good. But when I got those in, that really helped with how I felt overall. And the sleep is so huge. And I think we've talked about it a couple of times on this channel together. I think the last year, the pagan apps video, I talked about sleep and about how our bodies are set up with this natural hormonal cycle of the melatonin and the cortisol, and there's a whole list of different hormones that are involved. But basically, that when those get a little bit out of whack because we are living in a way that isn't what our body's expecting, so we're getting light from artificial light at weird times, or we're not getting the same amount of sleep or enough sleep that we need, it can throw that off, and that makes such a huge difference. So personally, getting my sleep, really working on sleep hygiene, made a huge difference in how I was able to handle anxiety, how I was able to not have the voices in the first place that were so destructive, or when they did happen, that I was able to let them pass by. So, nutritional deficiencies, sleep, and of course exercise, that ties into the whole sleep cycle as well, because if you're not getting exercise, that can be a really powerful signaler for what hormones our body needs to be making. So anyways, those things on the physical side, addressing those can make a huge difference. And I think it make a difference just not just in anxiety, but just how we feel and our ability to interact with the world and in a way in which we're a little more in control of ourselves, that we're a little bit more of active agents and not just reacting to everything that's coming at us. So the other part would be some more magical practices, if you will. And those would be a regular meditation practice. And I know that that doesn't seem like it will help in the moment when you're having that intense anxiety, when you're having those intense feelings of doubt and those voices, but that it can help your overall well-being and overall confidence in oneself, so that regular meditation can really address that. And there's also something that most meditation practices have, which is a way of practicing of how to deal with strong thoughts when they come up. That just letting them pass by, just move them along, because when we try and stop those thoughts, when we try and battle with them and say, no, you can't be here, that often gives them strength. It gives them more presence and power in our minds instead of just letting it flow by. So that practice of letting it flow by that we do in meditation can be really helpful for other times when thoughts and voices crop up. And then the last one would be in the moment, doing some sort of grounding. And on my channel, I've got a guided meditation that's something like the Great Tree Meditation or to that effect. But basically, working with visualization to just let all of the stress and everything that you've got flow out, and imagine bringing back up and feeling energy coming back up from the earth and filling you with that. And even though in the moment there may be doubts about if how real this is or how good you are or any of those things, but just the act of practicing it and going through those visualizations, I think, can make a huge difference. So just to recap, the two different sides that I had was the physical approach, and then also the practice approaches. So the physical, looking at your nutrition, looking at your sleep, exercise, that sort of thing, making sure that you're in the best physical place because the mind and the body really are hand in hand. And personally, I don't believe that they are actually separate, that they are just different parts of the same thing, and we look at them in a different way, talk about them a different way. But it's the blind man and the elephant. Um, and then the other side is using regular meditation and using some sort of visualization or spell work in the moment to ground, release that anxiety, release that doubt, and bring in the strength and the energy that you do need. So I hope that was helpful. Would love to hear in the comments from you folks if you have any particular practices that you've done, or if there's things that have really helped you with anxiety and doubt. And I believe that next week is going to be subs week. Should be a pretty interesting topic. And I will see you again in June. So until then, take care.